All of them.
We are live recording. Welcome everybody. Take it away, Gary.
All right. Thanks so much. Morning, everybody.
Morning, Gary.
Yeah. Remember that Cheeky Chunk, Sister Mary Elephant class? Ben does. Just you guys are too young.
Yeah.
All right. I have no idea how these are set. All right. So I have a prop. You guys have heard me say we have a form for that. You see me do this with this book? We have a form for that. We're going to look at some of those forms. These random forms that when you're wondering, how do I do that? How do I write that? What do I put that on? Do we have a form for that? We're going to look at the ones that I think you're going to, no one knows they're there until they bump into that kind of a transaction. Like, I have a guy that's doing an exchange. Like, what is that? And we have a form for that. So we're going to do all that stuff today. The form I didn't put in here, and that's how I want to start. Oh, right there. That's it. They're here, there. No. There's all this random stuff all messed. I guess it's just a display thing. Good afternoon, Elizabeth.
Sorry, that dentist appointment.
Yeah, did you work here, man?
Thank you.
I already heard enough about that this morning. People going, I just want to tell you. So, where do these forms live? We're going to do a little bit of the template lady's job today, because basically she's the entire software engineer, not me. I do content, but you can't get there without knowing where the hell this stuff lives. Heck, this stuff lives. Only the screen is a little jumbled, I think, because of the resolution or whatever they call it for the sharing. So, I just want to make sure you guys know where. So where are they? Where are the forms? Anybody that doesn't,
In zip form?
not you, in zip form. Right, in zip form. Where am I going to find, if I need a form, I got to read some random form to do something. Where am I going to get them?
Click my forms.
Pardon me?
All
forms.
My forms? No.
Awful.
That's what it says. All forms. Right side.
Are you in the new version?
No.
You're on the right. Well, it's right hand. Everyone, right hand.
Okay.
Good. Right there,
Unless
right?
you write with your left in there.
R-I-G-H-T.
Is that how you learned it? Your right hand is the hand that you write with.
Oh, very lefty, loosey, righty, tighty. Anyway, so here's all the forms, right? Well, let's see, it looks a little different on your screen. Actually, it looks fine here. Just do it that way. The other thing I wanted to show you while I was in the neighborhood was these are the CAR forms, right? California Association of Realtors forms, library forms. Are there other kinds of forms in zip forms?
Yes, there are.
Yes, there are. And where are they?
In the other libraries.
Select library.
Right there, right?
Oh, sorry.
Look at all that stuff. I know half of these I have no idea what they do. So the one I want to draw your attention to today is CAR, California EPUBs dues. Ridiculous name for here's where you find the combined hazards book. Why don't they call it something? Then you can tell that's back in the like, what was it, Windows 3.1. Everything was like file names were a mile long with underscores and hyphens and garbage in them. California EPUBs basically is a bunch of stuff, consumer guides, buyer and seller guides, but also the combined hazards book, which I don't know how you guys do your deals on what's required here and what's not, what's office policy and what's not generally. But even if you're not doing it, you'll get asked by the other transaction coordinator or other agent probably for combined hazards book. So the combined hazards book is lead paint, earthquake, mold, and all that kind of junk, all in one informational book, which I don't think state of California is updated since about 05, which is kind of, nothing has changed, nothing. Anyway, the entire book lives in here and the commercial version too.
So this is mandated on SkySlope.
There you go.
These documents are required on SkySlope, so you need to know where to go to get these.
All right, so there they are. Now you can get them. Can you still get them? Has anybody seen an actual book
Oh, yeah, we have them.
Do
We
you?
have them lots of
Okay.
them.
Yeah, I think I might have 2 or 3. These used to be gone all the time.
They're
We
actually
got-
interesting for reasons.
Hey, Greg, go back forms for the new agents.
New agents, I don't even
All
know
the
where
way
to
on
go.
top, if you just punch in a few letters.
Oh, okay, yeah, right. So let's do that. So I left a form out here on purpose so that we could do exactly that, yeah. So I don't, unless it, hopefully it doesn't auto pop. It's smart software. So in all forms, I want to find the form. I want to go get the addendum form. It's you can type in. This is one of the few times where a search is like sometimes the more you tell it, the better it works. Because we have too many forms that have kind of the same names. But we used to have to tell it, and I don't think we do anymore. How you wanted to search. Now you can just fake it, and you'll find your form. So I know most of the form acronyms because lots of them haven't changed. So let's see if I put in an acronym for the addendum.
You have to change your library.
Yeah, you have to.
Oh, am I still in the?
You're still in the.
Good job, everybody. So now I'm going to go back to the CAR library so that I can find CAR forms because I can't get CAR forms from the dues pubs. So it showed up because ADM is actually the code or whatever for that form. And when you're going to go on a different form, you got to clear that box. If you just type over it, it kind of nuts up and it doesn't know what to do. So if you clear that box, it'll reload the CAR forms library. You can use stuff like that. So
Just to add on that, if you're in SkySlope and there's a required form, it's gonna have the acronym in SkySlope on your checklist.
acronym, that's what it could be.
It'll say like AD. So you can take that acronym and just put it there and it'll find you your form.
A second. Boom, there you go. Now the trouble with like putting in age, sometimes they try to make it smarter and make the agents be able to not be as smart. So when I type in AD, I'm going to get to every form that has the letters AD in it. We used to be able to tell it search by acronym or form number. You put an AD, you'd only get the agency disclosure. So now it's a little easier. Find the one you want that way.
Gary,
And
if
still-
you go to sort, can't you still do it that way? What
Oh, you
were
can,
just
yeah.
talking about?
Yeah. Thanks. And see how it brings up the acronyms?
Yeah.
Boy.
So it'll bring up just that acronym.
So that's where it went. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So I got ADs, yeah. There it is. Cool. I like it. What am I on now? I'll go back. I've been using alphabetical, so that's why I'm getting 1,000 forms. When they changed this, they took the sort out and put it under the bar. I just never did anything.
Thought about using it.
Thank you. Of course, one of the reasons I don't go there much is I got a template for everything, so that's probably, I don't know if it's better, but that's how come I didn't know anything. So let's see. Let's just start with the hardest, most confusing form to understand in real estate. This is for sale of buyer's property. Why would that show up? And when and how and when you put it in and all that stuff? Anybody know?
When your buyer is making an offer, but it's contingent on the close of their property or exchange or something. Like a contingency for that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I have used this at times if I needed some language in it for an exchange, but the exchange has its own form.
Has its own.
And it's in this pile here somewhere. So the contingency for sale of buyer's property has an awful lot of check boxes and choices and all kinds of stuff. Sure, my paragraph numbers are all still okay. 8's the new 6, 6 is the old 7, blah, blah, blah. So like Nancy said, so when your buyer wants to buy a house and they have a house they need to sell, like their money's coming out of their house. So there's a box in about paragraph 4 or 5 or something like that in the RPA that says contingent on sale of buyer's property. You check the box, it pulls the form in, you get all that stuff. Let's see the top. Come back. There you are. We're working good, okay. So it's a combined form because it says contingency for sale of buyer's property. It talks about the buyer that has to sell a house and how we're going to deal with that whole thing. And there's a lot of moving parts to this form. It's also a notice to remove contingencies. So this is one of the, I think only 2 times in the transaction where you don't need a notice to perform ahead of time when you're going to make a buyer remove a contingency. It's kind of all set up ahead of time in the COP form. So the first thing that we put up there, it's got the typical recital paragraph we talked about a bunch of times. What transaction is this in? Who are the players? Blah, 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 all that stuff. Paragraph 1 is and it starts right off the bat being confusing. Length of contingency. The agreement is contingent on the close of escrow of buyer's property. We used to have to write that in. It was like, so when am I ready to waive that contingency? It's contingent on the close, which is why we had to give the seller an out, because who is going to wait for that? Right? Contingent on the close of escrow of buyer's property described as, so you put the address of the property the buyer's trying to get rid of in there. And the close of escrow of buyer's property has to be by the earliest of the scheduled close of escrow of seller's property. So if you're buying 123 Main Street and you're selling 456 something else, Broadway, I wonder if I should just pop that. You guys will keep up. So the buyer's got to close escrow either by the scheduled close of escrow of seller's property, so basically by the close date you all agreed on when you wrote the offer, or the date specified in paragraph 3, which is down here, paragraph 3 of this form, and like I said, it's already confusing. Or other, make something else up, right? So paragraph 1 says the earliest of scheduled close of escrow of seller's property or one of these other dates. So one of these other dates could be earlier than the close of escrow of the contract property when you're buying. And then you got some little options here, right? So paragraph 2 and paragraph 3, one are buyer's property is not in escrow. So check that box. There you go. Buyer's property is not now in escrow. And when you're listing agent, I mean, that's also pretty important stuff, right? We're really hoping we don't get an email that says, and we have to sell our house. We fill out the form. So I know what you're up to. Buyer's property not in escrow. And then 2 has a couple of parts. A is or is not yet listed for sale. If listed, listing broker is, MLS number is, so you can go look at it. And theoretically, they fill out the form, right? You don't have to go, where is it listed? What's the MLS number? Blah, blah, blah. So we'll just make it listed. So in paragraph 2, buyer's property not in escrow. Paragraph 2B, buyer has 17, or you can always change the days, to enter into escrow for the sale of buyer's property. Buyer shall, within the time specified, where the 17 is, provide seller with, and this is where I've had to have escrow give me the stuff because the other agent was like, I don't have to do that. It says right in the form that, excuse me, the buyer has to provide seller with copies of the contract, escrow instructions, and all related documents, otherwise known hereafter as escrow evidence, showing the buyer's property is entered escrow. So I'm going to know everything about your deal because I'm reading your contract, your escrow instructions, and everything. You can't hide from me like they used to. And I have still, in the recent past, played hell getting that contract. And escrow's been really good about me telling them, like, you know I get that, right? And they go, yep, here. They're complying with the
Can you
contract.
submit that to escrow and
I've just
override
sent them
this?
an email, said, we got a COP right in there, yeah, and they said, they're not giving me the stuff, and they'll shoot me what they have.
So
Now,
that
they may
will
not
give
have,
escrow guidance to send you the contracts of that escrow.
Yeah.
Without.
they have
This
done
should
it,
be
I
going
guess
to
I'll say
escrow
that.
too, so, yeah.
Pardon?
This goes to escrow also.
It's part of the contract. Anytime there's a checkbox in the contract, that form has to go to escrow. That's why, it was last Friday, Sandra and those guys were at the meeting. I think it was last Friday.
Yeah, it was.
So if you get into fighting with you, you don't have to tell them your game plan. you can say, no problem, hang up, send that to escrow, and just reroute.
That is probably the most understood thing by agents. They think because they've given you the listing broker, the MLS, and the escrow number and all that, they don't have to give you anything. They really do. Don't you find that, Gary?
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah, like I say, I rarely, I can't remember ever not having an argument trying to get escrow evidence.
And why would that be important to get that information? You want to know what's going on in that transaction.
What's in that transaction? A house sale? I've seen them go 4 deep on COPs before we had the COP back in the day. We had to craft the language on an addendum, and sorry, I went back there. And everybody just shut up about it. I made a lot of phone calls to a lot of people, lenders and everything, to find out there was a guy selling a house in Bakersfield to buy a house in Taft, and that guy was buying a mobile home in Pismo, and the guy selling the mobile home in Pismo was buying my listing. What the? That would have been important for me to tell my seller when we sat down and decided that we're not doing this deal. Someone get some money and then call me. Yeah, that was, I know every agent that was in that deal and everyone that didn't tell him. The quietest one was the one at the bottom of the left. Initials are, probably not in business anymore. Some of those people are either dead or retired.
Now, this is mandated to disclose this. It's on the RPA. If they have to get funding from a sale of a property, you have to check the box that says this money is coming from the sale. You can't hide that. That becomes a material fact. You will end up in an arbitration by you not disclosing this.
And you want to know how much they're getting from there. Is there going to be another loan? Is there going to be private money coming in? What's coming in? Because there might not be enough money from that if the sale closes.
And that's another argument you're probably going to have. That says, so when it says there, and that's where it really can get, people can think you're really like, you're just over the top, Gary. It says contract, escrow instructions, and all related documents. So if you have a contract, it's got a COP, I need that contract. If we're going 3 deep on house sales, I need the first contract that ever got written to generate the sale, that's generating the sale, that's generating my purchase. I need all of it. And I'm gonna have to call a lot of escrow people to get it. It's related documents. It's part of those check boxes, just go right down the road. And it's a confusing form, but it's a great form because we, like say, we used to have to craft the whole thing to send me to our first write and all that junk. You guys probably didn't have to do. So when you're not in escrow, we'll get the seller's right to cancel pretty soon. So paragraph 2, buyer's property not in. We're going to spend half the hour on this form and a minute apiece on the other 20. Is how this is going to go. Because this is when you're going to run into it, especially in an equity market where it's like, well, how you guys doing? Well, we're thinking about buying, and now we got a couple $100,000 in the house we waited 12 years to get. Now we got it, so we got to sell that to get our money out. So especially when the market kind of starts to heat up, you see a ton of these. Not so much right now, maybe. Are you guys seeing a lot of COPs right now?
So when we start shifting to more listings, buyers coming out having choices, we'll see these.
They're going to be a lot braver. Yeah, right now they're just trying. They're going to sell it after.
A lot of these lately.
Have you? There
Yes,
you go.
Wadsworth is one of them. Melissa was one of them.
What I just told you.
There you go.
Golden West was one of them.
Right, so it's important, it's critical, right, to know how this form works, because you have to know, especially as a listing agent, what your seller's cancellation rights are. And as the buyer's agent, you have to know how hard they have to work to get you out, because your job is somehow get that other house sold so you can do this deal without blowing it or muffing it in the meantime. And on a hot market, you have plenty of chances to muff it, because they'll probably get a backup offer, potentially. So buyer's property is not in escrow. 2B is really important. Buyer has 17 days to do what?
Get it into escrow.
Right. So so you got a contingency for the close of sale of buyer's property. All these things, by the time we get to the bottom of the form, you'll see the buyer is very busy in this form. But if they're not in escrow yet, in 17 days, can the seller do something?
Yep.
Right? Toss them, right? I mean, notice them and then decide whether you're going to toss them or not. So everybody misses that one too. It's like, well, you didn't accept a backup offer. You can't give me a notice. What's wrong with you? Can't you read these forms? You're in English. No, you didn't get into escrow. That's a separate contingency in 2B. And so, like, how's that going? Have you guys thought about reducing the price? Like, help me out here, help me help you. and we'll see how it goes. But if they're like, now we got nothing, notice to perform, you're out. And you're gonna surprise them 90% of the time. What?
A quick comment, in this market, I wouldn't recommend to your client to take an offer unless that house they're selling is an escrow.
Yeah, I mean, just a way to do business, right? It's like, you can sell stuff now if you price it right and all that stuff. And then maybe if the buyer's agent, maybe they gave you like 10 grand over asking or something to try to get you to take their deal. So that way, maybe, so what could you do then? Like, well, this is the dream deal of all time to let your seller stays in the house 3 months after it closes because they're having a house built somewhere and they're offering you 10 grand over list and it's all cash if they can just get this house sold. And that starts to feel like we might like a piece of that action, right? So what if on 2B we change that 17 days to like 7? It's like, all right, put your money where your mouth is, get that house in escrow, I'll give you a week. You can do something like that, right? Put a little heat on it and say, man, everything else is awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking at your face, but it's all day long. That means put it on aggressively to sell.
Yeah, like make it, I believe you, man. Show me, that you know what price is supposed to be and you're going to sell this and everything's going to go good. We don't dislike your people or your deal. We just dislike the fact that you're not in escrow yet. So heave to, like, make it happen. I'm saying it again. Okay, poor little buyer, hurry up and get an escrow. So, paragraph 3. I wonder if that's some of these check boxes are mutually exclusive. Now, there's no way I could have 2 and 3 checked at the same time. Let's see what happens. Okay, that form doesn't work that way. So, if you have this form in your templates, which you could, you could have a random forms template. You could have a sale of buyer's property template. Maybe. Make sure the boxes aren't checked because you're going to wind up apparently with more than one box checked. That's going to be very confusing. Like, are you in escrow or not? What did we say? So, somewhat similar. Paragraph 3, I guess it's a paragraph, buyer's property in escrow. Buyer's property is in escrow and escrow is scheduled to close on blank. So, going back to, you're still working? Yeah. Paragraph 1. Length of contingency, the agreement is contingent on the close of escrow buyer's property described as blank by the earliest of the scheduled close of escrow seller's property or the date specified in paragraph 3. Now we're in paragraph 3. So if you're going to close your purchase, you're going to close this contract that this thing is attached to December 31st. But the buyer's property is scheduled to close November 30th. Their contingency to close it is the drop dead date is November 30th. Hey, buyer, you have to close. You don't get to wait till December 31st to close your escrow. According to the contract that we have today, you got to close whenever your house is scheduled to close that you're selling. That escrow has to close when it's scheduled because paragraph 1, it says the earliest of scheduled close escrow of the house I'm buying or the scheduled close escrow of the house I'm selling. So if that's earlier, that's what matters. Now, if it's later, I don't understand how that works at all. It's like, you guys close escrow yet? No, we're going to close you anyway. Wait, what?
Yeah, so why the COP, huh?
Yeah.
Right, you'll see that, right? They'll, I still remember. That goes back then. It's the greatest form ever. One time we had a deal with somebody from an office that had a transaction coordinator 15 years ago, like no one did. Like, what are you doing? So, the agent at the time says, "Wow, this is really unusual. Your paperwork is so well done and everything's so perfect and so tight and all that stuff. It's amazing." And it's, what are they hiding? They're hiding a house sale. We never got a COP. It closed like 3 days later. I told her, I guarantee you they're up to something. So we started putting a little heat on the listing agent, who should also rename it, the buyer's agent, who should remain named, so I'm getting better at that. I don't want to just name them. I want them on a wall of shame. Right? It's like, that lady lied, that other lady lied, here's their picture.
Be careful when you work with them.
Yeah.
And all the other jobs moved that. It's exactly what they're, everything was just too perfect. It's like, okay, nobody moved because we're not going to tell them. It was 2005, market was nice and hot. They're going, no problem. Well, it can be. I mean, somebody sneezes in that other transaction, you just added a week, and now with this whole TRID thing and all that stuff, if you can predict the day you can close an escrow, you're like a soothsayer or something like that. Say that 3 times. Soothsayer or something. All right, back to work. Oops, there we go. Paragraph 3. Buyer's property is in escrow, in bold, so we don't get confused. Escrow is scheduled to close on a certain day. Escrow holder is, tell me your escrow holder, tell me your escrow number, because when you start dragging your feet on escrow evidence, I'm going to go straight to Kim and Steph, whoever it is, go, you know I need that stuff, right? And they're going to come across it. They've been really, really good about that, which was really a relief to me. Buyer shall, within 5 days after acceptance, now that's acceptance of the contract we're working on, the one the buyer's trying to buy, right? 5 days after acceptance, and I lost it, buyer shall deliver to seller escrow evidence. Escrow evidence was defined in paragraph 2 as every stinking piece of paper that has anything to do with your transaction. I don't care if it's something you're keeping from the lender or not, it says all related documents, that's a huge blanket. Why don't you just have your file couriered over? Because I need to see everything you're up to. I need to know every nuance of your transaction. That way I can help my seller decide what in the heck we're going to do with your stuff. All right. Cancellation of buyer's property. Usually they're not too bad about that because the buyer's agents are partially, at least, sometimes conscious of the buyer's deposit, right? So it says paragraph 4, if buyer's property is in, or so once buyer's property gets an escrow, whether it started that way or not, and either party to that escrow gives notice to the other of intent to cancel, buyer shall give seller written notice of that intent to cancel. It doesn't have to be a cancellation. It's only got to be an intent, right? You could have a half-signed cancellation. You got to cough that up. I mean, if you're going to go by the letter of the contract. Just so you guys know, we're having a little issue over here. And we're going to get to how that all applies to the seller momentarily. In fact, next. And like I say, this form, it's really, it's long and confusing because it's incredibly self-contained. This whole thing is if this, then that. So it doesn't say if this, then after issuing an NBP and blah, blah, blah. It just says if this, then that. It's basically, it's almost like its own contract, but it's just part of the main purchase agreement. So paragraph 5. So in a hot market, right, seller right to cancel. Sellers sometimes might want to get out of a deal. It's like, man, I wish that guy would have showed up last week. Well, he wasn't ready, and now he is. His settlement from the wreck showed up, and he's got $11 million, and he's buying 14 houses. And he really wants to buy your house, Mr. Seller, but we're stuck with this other Hanyak here that you're going to resell it. So there are ways for the seller to get out. Now, the buyer makes a misstep. The seller could say, we got car wreck survivor over here that's going to buy us. So you guys got to either waive a bunch of contingencies, and there's a bunch that you have to waive, or kindly step aside and we'll let the other guy buy it. So seller's right to cancel. Seller may cancel the agreement in writing. Duh, right? What is not in writing? Nothing. Double negative. But you can. Seller may cancel the agreement in writing as follows. 5A, after first given buyer a notice to buyer to perform if buyer's property does not close escrow by the time specified in paragraph 1, which is what? Pardon? Paragraph 1. Now I'm helping you a little bit. So paragraph 1 says that buyer's property has to close escrow either on the day that this purchase is going to close or on the day that buyer's sale escrow, the house they're getting rid of, is scheduled to close. So if that doesn't happen, then a notice to perform and you're out. So if buyer's property is supposed to close September 30th. They're in escrow, they're almost there. I mean, we've signed loan docs. If they don't make it September 30th, and I hope that's not Saturday, it is, we're not going to go there. You can notice them and bounce them. So that's the first right to cancel is if the buyer muffs paragraph 1, you can get them out. So paragraph 5B, after first giving buyer notice to perform, if buyer fails to provide escrow evidence. So you go to your buyer, this is a huge out, right? Because no one ever gives it to you. It's like, man, we have so much better offer now. Like this offer was, man, I don't know, and they got to sell a house. Now we got a guy that, the market heated up a little bit, and this guy's ready to just take him out. So ask them for their escrow evidence, right? As soon, within 5 days of the property entering escrow, the buyer has to give the seller escrow evidence. If they don't do that, notice them and toss them. So that's another thing. It's maybe you don't help them like a whole lot. You don't, go to Kim and staff and try to get it and all that stuff. Instead, you just toss them. It's like, oh, you didn't send me your escrow evidence. We don't have to do that, and you can't make me. All right, get out. Yes, I can. I can make you do two things. Give me that or get out. I mean, you can word it different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Sound like Aaron.
If you're gonna do a notice to perform.
Yeah, this thing tells you when to notice to perform and when not to. Yeah, so these like 17 days and 5 days and all that stuff, there's always a notice to perform in those. Yeah, I probably got you a little screwed up on that. Now, the reference is this form, right? This form. It tells you what to do. It's like, oh man, we never got the escrow evidence. What do? 5B, after first given buyer a notice to buyer to perform, if buyer fails to provide escrow evidence within the time specified in paragraph 2B or 3B, I was either in escrow or you're out. Or if buyer gives notice to seller of either party's intent to cancel the escrow for buyer's party. Oh, your buyer's getting a little flaky? Well, I guess so are you. Bye.
Okay, I got a question on that one. So,
I was afraid you were gonna, because I just asked myself that same question in my mind.
so if you're in escrow, you know that something's happening, they're starting to get flaky, you reach out, how's your escrow going? They don't say anything. You send them a notice to perform to say that I've been told that your property's being flaky. I'm noticing you to send me an intent of cancellation. Because I swear to God, I was
Because you're
just
doing
rushing
that
to
on
say
parents.
this.
So
First,
let's
you gotta catch them.
You gotta catch them all.
But now you got some insider info, right? And now so we're gonna put a little heat on them guys.
Let me ask you this. Can you go past them, go to the party that's considering canceling, ask that party, how's your escrow going? And if they respond, we're actually considering canceling, would that then give you the written notice?
You probably gotta stop at escrow. I'm not too sure you
Yeah, I
would
don't
talk
think
to
you
that
can go to
buyer's,
that other person. They're not a part of
that
it.
buyer's buyer.
Aren't they
Yeah, they're
party to-
related, but we're not in that transaction. That relationship, so to speak, is part of our transaction. That's I don't know if I'd take that one to court.
Because they would be the ones that will ultimately tell you, this person's gonna hush up. They're not gonna send you that written notice. So the moment.
Yeah, I talked to escrow first, see if escrow got any, heard any
If they
wiggle,
got any.
probably, because we know who their escrow is and where it's at and all that stuff, because they had to give us escrow evidence. They had to give us their entire file. And maybe so we know when their contingency timeframes are and everything, like, how's it going? Did you guys wait that? Like, how are we doing?
Because you gotta think, how do you catch them?
Well,
This guy's gonna hush up.
And it is, that's an excellent question, and that's a shame, right? Is he contractually, now he's a guy. Is he contractually obligated to tell you? Yes. Is that a breach? Yes. Can I catch him? I'm not sure what I do. That's an excellent
Yeah, I
question.
think you still have to follow all the guidelines. It's not about trying to catch them.
You
It's
do
not
it
about
right,
doing
you
anything.
take the higher.
If they breach their contract with you, or if they are not providing documentation to you, then you give them notice to perform, which is normally what, 24 to 72, to whatever days you
It's
give them,
in,
okay?
it's in the contract.
Yeah,
It's usually
whatever you have in your
2
contract.
days.
You have to give them those times.
But would you give them the notice to
So
say,
what would you notice
have
it
an
for, right?
intent?
Yeah,
You
you
noticing
have to
them
have
to waive
some-
a contingency
Yeah,
or
you
something?
have-
That's where you're
That's what I'm
screwed up.
saying, you have to follow that, so you,
So I
even if
guess,
they didn't do something, and they have to not do something to give them a notice
Right.
to perform. You can't just go, I heard your
So
buyer's
they-
really flaky.
so they didn't do something.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're
Then you
in
tie it to
they're in a
something.
problem.
Yeah.
And they're just lying. I mean, that's your point, right? And
But
that
that's
never
not
happens
because if
for
they're-
21.
if
That's, no one will ever lie to you.
If their deal's getting canceled, they're gonna want their deposit back. So
But what
that's
this
what
says
they're
is
gonna do.
intent to cancel.
That's
So
what
you
I'm
might
saying.
not have a.
So that
fully
means
executed
you got one
cancellation.
side signed on a cancellation.
Even
I'd
if
say it's
escrow
probably
doesn't
done.
have the cancellation, they'll know because
Okay.
the agent's gonna tell escrow, shit, we're canceling.
And then you can lean on the COP to lean on escrow to say, provide me the unexecuted cancellation that you have on file. And that right there would catch them that I have the documentation I need to.
Why
put
would
in
And-
you
the
send,
COP.
why would you send a cancellation to escrow that wasn't signed?
Yeah,
Does
they
that
will.
have-
Well, the whoever's gonna cancel, I mean, they do it
Notify
all the
escrow
time,
that
right?
we're trying to
We're
cancel.
canceling escrow, and I sent it in hot, they're gonna cancel us, just go, no, we're not. But you can, the CAR contract, and it's a mess to even try to understand it, Jedi mind wipe, you can unilaterally cancel one of these contracts. Does escrow want to be a part of that? Never has,
Yeah.
never will. They're gonna, this really bothers them. That's why paragraph, whatever it is, 17, 18, 22, whatever it is in the RPA, talks about escrow can get out from under everybody's thumb by going, you guys are still fighting. I've got cancellation from one property. This is your notice. You guys either
They
figure
won't
out
cancel
what
it,
you're-
so they gotta totally.
figure out
execute
what
it.
you're, well, they can do it now. They put a paragraph, the escrow association put a paragraph in the contract where they may not cancel the deal, but they're gonna get off that deposit. They're gonna put in a demand, you put in a demand for deposit, escrow's gonna get rid of the deposit, they're gonna shut that file and move on.
If you send them like one signature and tell them, I got another one coming, they'll stop working on it.
And it's a
Yeah, they'll
10-day
stop working on it
notice.
because they're busy. I mean, you know, like slower time maybe.
I just think you need to be careful, make sure you're tying things to, that are contractual, that you can actually tie it to.
Right, so
You can't do it
somehow
on
you gotta,
assumptions, you
Yeah.
can't do it on
Yeah.
a wiggly feeling
I'm
coming
very
from
safe.
somebody.
Exactly.
you gotta expose this guy somehow. Somewhere along the line, you have to find enough evidence to plead your
You just
case.
ask them to provide something that they
So
don't.
shooting them an
It's not
email
fine.
saying, how's escrow going? Oh, we're starting to get shaky. Would that be an intent?
I don't think that's an intent to
That's not
cancel.
an
like you
They're
guys
just
see
trying to be
it.
honest,
There
face it.
can't,
Yeah,
well,
we're working on
you
it.
don't wanna get strung out, so you're
Yeah,
trying to get
until
figured
you
out.
know for sure.
And
that
my
agent that
contract
responds
ties
with-
that, that you can go back to your contract, because that's what everything goes to. So write your
Yeah.
contract tied in it.
Four corners of the
You
gun.
can go back to it.
But
That's what
everybody's
a
in
CO
agreement
is critical.
that a one-party signed cancellation would show intent.
That's an intent to cancel. I mean, that's a
That's
signed, written intent to cancel.
If you
And
don't
it
have
says
both
right,
parties, but you
it
have
says
one.
right on there, I hereby cancel and this is my name. But just because the other guy didn't sign it doesn't make me feel better. It still makes, I want out.
Yeah.
That's enough. Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah.
So.
Because
we
the
don't
other
have
thing,
to-
right, the mutually executed form, that's a cancellation. It's not an intent, it's done, we just canceled, everybody signed it. That canceled the contract right there, that doesn't have to go to escrow, it goes to escrow to cancel the escrow and handle the deposit and all that stuff. But you canceled the contract with delivery and signed delivery of mutually executed cancellation form. Yeah, that's a, oh, God, I was thinking the same thing, what if I can't catch this guy? And I've had that, where it's like, what is going on?
But if
People say
escrow
you're mad at me
received
now.
one,
Yes.
if escrow received one signature on the cancellation, that cancellation is a party to this contract because the COP, which means you can lean on escrow to get that cancellation. Once you have it, you can forward that over to the other agent that says, I show intent that you're trying to cancel and therefore here's my
Here's
notice
your notice
for
to form,
canceling.
blah, blah, blah.
That would be the protocol.
If you get in a situation like that, let's have a little huddle.
Yeah,
first
right,
just-
try to figure out what, get a game plan. Say that three times
Say that three
fast.
times fast,
Yeah,
yeah.
you got an agent like hiding under the desk or something, you know.
And we all laugh
Oh,
about
what's
this, but
going
this happens more frequently than ever. Like, this happens a lot. These type of scenarios happen all the time. I mean, yeah. It gets sticky when one party wants to cancel.
I wouldn't say that all the time.
When one party wants to
Your
cancel and the
intent
other
is
does not.
basically to try to hold your escrow together. It's not to screw somebody over.
Right,
to-
brokers some real estate, man.
Yeah, it's just, your intent is to try to bring it together, because every time you cancel one, you're starting from beginning again.
But you
Yeah,
can
so
agree
try to
that
hold it
the
together.
other party that's trying to hold theirs together doesn't want to let ours go. And if we're on the last string and they're holding to try to pull something together, cancel this and get another escrow in there and sell us on the fact that, oh, we just need another 30 days because we got a new one, and you're getting strung along, you need to know how to get out if you have
I
better
don't think I've ever
offers.
had that happen. I've had multiple times where they've come to me and said, look, we're having an
Yeah.
issue here. Would your seller be willing to work with us on? That's what I get more than this cutthroat stuff. I don't hardly ever get
And
that.
I think that agent that says, you know,
And I
hey, just
think
so
it's-
you know, I'm gonna keep you updated, we're having a little trouble.
Yeah,
We're not
and I-
out, I mean, this is not an
And I
intent to
think the
cancel,
whole thing
but,
is that's what
give me
we
a
have to-
minute, I got
Yeah.
a thing over here, I'll get back to you, like, so that
Yeah,
agent's not
you
gonna
have to
go,
learn to
he's
be
already
working.
fessing. Or he's
And
very
work with
clever.
these people.
Majority
It's
is
not-
And now.
But there are gonna
Majority
be
of
those,
them are.
but you know, Nancy, there are gonna be those isolated
They
cases.
are
like
going to
David
be.
says.
But I don't think they're all.
I don't think it's prevalent.
No, it's not, it doesn't happen often.
You just
Often.
need to know
Fair
what
enough.
to do if it does happen.
First time, shame on you, second time, shame on me, right? Watch it, just, run your deal, man, be in your contract.
You know your
I think that's the
contract,
whole thing, like
you know your contract, and you'll have it.
Just about every other state in the union, they go get their attorney right now. No, it's you. Pretty much you. They can go get an attorney in about a minute where you're going, you know what? I think you better call somebody. But it's front line of defense in California is you. You basically why attorneys, like, it's love-hate with attorneys, because we practice law all day. As soon as you fill in a blanket here, you're speaking on your attorney. So
That's your
they-
job, to stay on top of your contract. So
Right.
you're saying, hey, day 5, hey, day 17, you know, it's not like,
How's it going? What's up? You
what's
know?
going on up there, you know?
And just like Nancy said, if try to keep your escrows together as much as you can.
Yeah.
If it reaches the point, they would stop
And
you
you
out.
have to.
And you need to know that contract so you know how to get out.
Yeah. And you need to know like what your options are, and if your seller says, you know, give them a week, well, give them a week. You know? So if they'll take a week, maybe they want out. Maybe they're sick of their guy.
Yeah, because it's really not our decision,
But
it's our
yeah.
seller's decision.
It's the
That's
principles
what you
all
have to
the
do.
time. Feedback and advice, that's your job. Ask questions, get feedback, give advice. I'd cancel. That better be based on something, like,
Yeah.
and it probably should be based on the question, what are my options? Okay, blah, 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 blah. What do you guys want to do? Call me tomorrow. Because we probably should make a decision pretty soon. Give that kind of advice all day long. What happens if we don't do anything? Well, we're all just here in limbo. I don't know, can't tell you. Maybe they pull it together.
Wasting marketing time.
The whole thing, right? Yeah. Now on a falling market, yeah, get out. Rising market, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's worth another 2% 6 months down the road. I mean, it's not a real hot roller coaster, really steep climb market. So if buyer, after being given a notice to remove contingencies, fails to remove the contingency specified in 8A, which is another incredibly confusing part of the contract, basically the meat of the COP, thing we used to call the old 72-hour first right. We just have to compose the entire thing. Like, talking about attorneys. It's like, what are you saying? Seller right to cancel. Okay. So, and we'll get to 8A here in a bit. Buyer right to cancel. Buyer may cancel the agreement in writing. Buyer's got a bunch of more cancellation rights than Carter's got pills in the RPA, right? It's all about the buyer going, nah, see ya. So as far as with a house sale contingency, right? Buyer may cancel the agreement in writing if prior to buyer's removal of the contingency for sale of buyer's property doesn't close escrow by the time specified in paragraph 1, or buyer for buyer's property gives notice to buyer of intent to cancel. So if the buyer's really doing it right, things aren't working, falling apart, and they're coming up short, buyer just cancel. The contingencies work both ways. Like our escrow is not closing on time, we can't do it, we're gonna just cancel. That's a pretty nice buyer's agent, right? And a nice buyer. So the buyer goes, oh my God, keep me in, and the buyer's agent goes, shh. Right?
Okay, I
So
just
those
got
guys-
confused.
Yeah, so the seller has some rights to cancel to match the buyer's right to cancel. So buyer's property does not enter escrow in 17 days, for instance, which is paragraph 2A, I think, if I remember right. Way back. So the buyer says, hey, we didn't make it. We're out. No notice, no nothing. Buyer says, hey, you know what, this thing's not gonna work at all. I just, you know, so out of deference to everybody and fair play and what is that we talked about? Good faith, all that stuff. This isn't working, we're not gonna make it. So either you get an extension of that time or just cancel the escrow, whichever one you need. Keep your paperwork tight too from the buyer's side.
Is there a contingency on this form that talks about? Because it says this, so on paragraph 8A, it says.
Yeah, it's all
seller
about
shall
the
have to
72-hour
immediately
first right.
give buyer in writing, remove this contingency. What contingency?
The house sale contingency.
The house sale.
And you have to show proof of funds to close and something else, I forgot what it was there. Because it didn't used to be that way. We'd waive the house sale contingency, just hang our hat on the loan contingency, because without the down payment, loan's not happening.
But
They
there's
changed that form a while
there's
ago.
no contingency. So if the buyer removes all contingency, they still have the contingent of their house closing. They never remove that with this form. Or they never remove that. When they remove all their contingencies, it doesn't mean that they're removing the sale.
Right, yeah, you can get to the, so, yeah, let's talk about that, right? Okay, so we got buyer's right
That's
to
not what it's
cancel,
asking
but
there.
we'll move on down through, right? Yeah, so paragraph 7 is kind of important, and the, so was it SPRP? They changed the way it reads. I'm hoping they didn't change this one, because if they did, I'm about to get a surprise. 616 might have. So 7A, time periods. Time periods in the agreement, so that's the main agreement, the house, you're representing the seller, this is that transaction, right? The buyer's buying this house, selling their house to buy it. Time periods in the agreement for inspections, contingencies, blah, 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 shall begin as specified in the agreement, or check the on the day after buyer delivers to seller any of the following: escrow evidence, blah, blah, blah. So you can hold off your 17-day inspection period and all that stuff until you get your house in escrow, if that's what you want to do and everybody agrees to it, right? The default is you open this escrow, whether you put your house in escrow or close it or did anything with it or not, the one you're selling, when you open this purchase escrow, you have 3 days to get your deposit in there, 7 days, is it 3 days or 7 now for a pre-approval letter? Forgot, 3 days, right? Yeah, pre-qual, all that stuff. Your 3 days is over in 3 days, not 3 days after you put your house in. So we have to modify the form to make the time period start late. The seller purchased a replacement property, the default in the form is the time period start late. Learned that the hard way about 3 months.
And as a buyer's agent, I love that form, that checkbox. As a listing agent, I hate it.
Yeah, right? Yeah, so what do? Counter it, right?
Counter it.
No. Come on now, we're gonna let you guys goof around with your stupid house sale, but we're gonna put you in the position where, like Dave was saying a minute ago, your contingencies are gone. I mean, your loans are funding all this stuff. Now get rid of your house. We wanna keep this thing moving while you're trying to get rid of your house. So yeah, that's not my favorite one, even as the buyer's agent, because it's like a chip you can push across to the seller. Say, we're gonna do all our inspections and all that stuff right now. We're gonna be on the hook for paying our inspector and all that stuff. Go with us on our home sale here. The one I like at the bottom is the end of 8B that says, I will never waive this house sale contingency in your lifetime. It's really hard to get that one to stick. I mean, really hard. Now, it used to be easier because it used to be hard to find. They started taking stuff out. There used to be one in the contract not that long ago that said the loan contingency shall be in effect until the designated loans are funded. Your loan contingency never ends until the bank cuts the check, puts it in escrow, you're ready to close in an hour, right?
And it was deceiving. I mean, it was really heavy.
Well, people said that was deceiving, but
Not deceiving.
when I started, it was the pre-printed financing contingency was until the designated loans are funded. There was no 17 days or any of that junk. It was like, I have a loan contingency no matter how long it takes, as long as I can stay within my escrow period. If I got a 30-day escrow, I better be done by about day 27 and wrap this thing up. So they took that default and they made it optional and they put it in paragraph 1 or 2, like right at the top of the page. Until the designated loans are funded. We check that box every time. Say, what are you going to do as a buyer's agent? Who are you working for? I'm working for the buyer. That's the best thing for them.
So Garrett, if you get a
And we're back.
contingency release from the buyer and it says all contingencies removed, is that including the COP?
I think not. Yeah, we're going to roll down through.
Is there a specific place, because that has been a big back and forth between me and Angie of, I got a full contingency release, which means they're releasing everything, the sale of their house, all the inspections, everything. And she's saying, no, they release everything, but the COP still plays and they haven't released their house. They can still back out if their house doesn't sell. And I go,
Yeah, it's to me, it's a standalone form. Blah, blah, blah.
because it says,
Right there.
Mhm.
And this must be, that must be new.
so you need to
616.
check, so you need
Right.
to check it to not release it.
Yep, now, yeah. Ever since June of 16, yep. So
Right,
that
that's
argument's
the
been
argument.
handled, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's.
And I think that's why they put that in there, is because like we had a lot of trouble with it. We went with them, we treated them as like two separate, like almost a separate transaction. We handled that house sale contingency and we handled that paper tiger escrow while it was going.
so let's hear Linda out. So if we get item B and it says all contingencies are removed, and that's the only thing the buyer checks, and all of a sudden we receive this.
Then the CUP is included.
Yep.
It's all
If
contingencies.
you click number C, that's everything.
Yeah.
Any and all.
Yep.
Any and all.
So if you
want-
When
it's
you
all
pay,
one.
you're.
You get to, you're gonna leave something out,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, if you're gonna
we
check,
want-
you never
if we're the
check B
buyer,
if you're waiving them all. Check B if you're keeping one or two.
That's right,
right?
you have something you don't wanna release.
If we are the buyer,
That's
we
good.
want B and then we wanna check the box COP?
Yeah.
Yes, and if we receive C, C means they have no more outs.
That's right.
C's everything.
Yep.
Any
And they
all.
can't argue, well, I still have the contingent of my house. No, you waived that.
Any and all, it's.
Any and all.
And you know, it's great language.
Just out of curiosity,
We
what
want
happens
C.
in a situation like that where if they release everything and then they go, oh shoot, my house fell out, I can't sell? But
We're a
Where do you-
working agent, but you ultimately, you're holding them to it.
No, but
I hate to say it, but every
Jeopardize the buyer's
scenario
time.
is different.
Buyer's deposit.
If it was an error that they didn't mean to, and you're working with them, then you might settle with half a deposit. You might settle with, I'm gonna give you another week to see if we can put it together. Again, we're working agents. If they deliberately lied and you jeopardize the transaction and they've released, and then you find out there is like lying going on, I'm probably gonna go for the throat. I'm gonna go for my
Buyers
deposit.
trying to get their deposit.
Well, you're gonna
Compensate
explain-
their seller.
You're gonna explain the seller's position, the options to the seller, and the seller's gonna go for the throat or not.
Yes.
The seller's gonna go for the throat, and you think it's a bad idea, you can mention that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I do
You try
that,
not
and
to steer
here's
them.
why.
Yeah.
And don't tell them what to do, because if it doesn't work, man, whose fault it is, your fault, you are
Guaranteed,
alone,
even if it's not
you know
your fault.
company. You know company's going, oh my God, really? And then they're, his favorite thing to do is kind of leave it like, nobody wins them all, just saying, you guys pay that? We're really gonna go to bat for you. That would be the day. Times I've had to do it, I've had to go build my own case and hand it to them, how do you like
We're like 50 minutes on this form here.
I know, it's about a 7-hour form, right? Okay, so buyer right to cancel, good thing we talked about the contingency removal form, because that's new.
Place to
Yep.
go.
This is where you get all the smart stuff. Time period. So let's go to and buyers. So time periods and buyer's deposit, and most of these forms are handled separately. Partly because if you're going to hold off all the time periods for inspections and everything, we probably still want the deposit in there. Deposits are good, earnest money, blah blah blah. So do something, write one check. Or you
They'll
guys
slide
penniless.
you all the way.
What's that?
Yeah.
You have to have a deposit to create a contract or create an escrow?
No.
No.
Just so we should be clear. Okay, 8. Made this form so big now, it used to be 6. Backup offers and seller right to have their buyer remove contingencies and cancel. So or cancel. The key to 8 is after acceptance, seller shall have the right, this isn't a checkbox, this is how this form works. After acceptance, seller shall have the right to continue to offer seller's property for sale for backup offers. If seller accepts a written backup offer. We used to have a lot of trouble with this form because people try to leverage this part of the form and they hadn't accepted an offer yet. And what they needed to do was get out on some other part of the form. So we used to have a lot of trouble with the application of this. So seller has a right to stay on the market. You don't have to.
And that would
Seller's
be
got to decide, right?
active under contract.
Yes, I would say yes. Yeah, we used to have a different status for that, and active under contract's a whole different discussion too. I'll try not to have. So, but yeah, so if you're active under contract, then in the MLS, you still show up active, as I understand it, on like Zillow and all that stuff. So you're still you told your seller you were going to stay on the market, and now you did. Market pending, like back, you're out of here. Good to know, right? So 8A, so if seller accepts a written backup offer, 8A is the immediate right to notify buyer to remove sale of property contingency. Seller shall have the right to immediately give written notice to buyer in writing to remove this contingency, remove the loan contingency, if any, and provide verification of sufficient funds to close escrow without the sale of buyer's property. So you have to say, okay, I don't need to sell my house after all, and here's why. I'm done with my loan. I have all that money in the bank anyway, I just didn't want to use it. That's the only way. You can't waive this contingency by saying, well, all right, you have to make sure that you provide all that other evidence they talked about there, right? So the immediate right to notify a buyer says, hey buyer, you got to do all this stuff or get out. And it says, if buyer fails to complete these actions within 3 or blank days after delivery of such notice, seller may then immediately cancel the agreement in writing. So 3 has been upheld by every court, every order, according to CAR, as a reasonable time period to do stuff. So if you're going to change it to 1, you might catch a little grief down the road. So the notice to remove contingencies, and this is the part where I call it a standalone form, is how would you notify them to remove the house sale contingency? How would the seller notify?
Write it in.
Pardon?
Write it in.
Write it in? Where?
Other.
Huh?
Other,
Where?
paragraph 1.
Wait, what is the question?
What is the
What's
question? I don't know what the question is.
So how do you notice the buyer that they have to waive their house sale contingency?
Notice.
What form?
Notice to the form.
Right on the bottom, right there. Notice to remove contingency. Seller hereby gives notice to buyer to remove contingencies and take action specified in paragraph 8A. That's all you gotta do. Same.
Sign that.
Why they did that, I don't know. And then then now they put it in the CR as a separate contingency. Watch for this form to change one more time, probably in December.
So
You
signing
know,
that,
this
send it
makes
back.
sense though, because so many of your contingencies are in this form. So that would
So you're
make
bringing it all,
sense,
yeah.
because this is where they're listing the property, the address, the escrow and all that, so it would be wise to use that.
And
that
it used to be
starts
for
with
like, this was how you got out. Now it's only for the 8A.
Yeah.
I got a backup offer. Okay, buyer, now you got a Fisher cut bait. And this is the notice to Fisher cut bait. So the buyer can stay. Then they'll say, if they're gonna stay in, they'll send you a CR with the
Loan contingency.
house
sale.
contingency waived, the loan contingency waived, and verification of funds to close.
So you're signing this form twice and sending it twice? You
You
could
sign it
send
at once and then you're waiting, right? Yeah,
Right, but I meant if you want to use this form to remove the contingency.
that's the notice form. Yeah, I don't think you want to. I think you have to. I mean, this is the form that says do it here.
Seller hereby gives notice to buyers.
Why? I don't know. Like I said, look for a change in December. That's what I think. Somebody's gonna say something in October, then they go, oh, right. That's the only form we have in the entire library that works like that. Maybe we should do something. Maybe you're right.
And we're trained to use the notice to the form on everything.
Yep. Yeah, and this one kind of flies in the face of everything you try to teach people to do. Yeah, thank you
It'd
for
still
it.
be contingency.
But that notice to perform would still be valid, wouldn't it? Because you
Yeah.
still gave in
You could.
writing.
Yeah, you can still use it.
I don't know why not. You know,
I'm sure.
I mean, so then somebody else, some smart aleck, like tries to get you on a technicality. You didn't notice me correctly. Like, all right, okay, fine. Give me a minute, and here you go,
That happens.
buddy. So 8B, delayed right to notify. So this is another, they added this layer in about 96 because we were having a really hard time selling houses. The market was hot. It was like 3 days is enough. We're going to be in escrow. And then it kind of fell apart in like 93, 94. So in 96, they finally made a form change, even though the market had started to come back already. And said, we're going to give the buyer a delayed right to note. It was always immediately notifying them that they had 3 days to fish or cut bait. So 8B now says, okay, you know what? Seller shall not invoke the notice provisions in paragraph 8A, which is the 3-day notice to fish or cut bait, within the first 17 or blank days of the agreement. So you can say, okay, we'll accept your offer. We're opening escrow. Everybody's happy. And then the next day, because we stayed on the market, we accepted a backup offer. I hope I put that for you. And with the backup offer accepted, we don't get to give these guys, you know, and those guys have to know too, those whoever made the backup, you don't get to give these guys the notice to waive their house sale contingency until you've been married to them for 17 days. So the delayed right to notify, like dream deal for a buyer, not so much for a seller. The box you gotta watch out for is 8B, the very last box there. Seller shall not invoke the notice provisions in paragraph 8A, and right down to the bottom of that last phrase in that paragraph during the term of the agreement. That means you can never, as long as we're in escrow, ask me to waive my house sale. I've checked that every time until finally I was just getting hate mail. All right, okay, fine. God.
If you have the buyer, you're checking.
Right, yeah. Yeah, if you have the seller,
You look for
you're
it,
wondering why.
Yeah,
If you have the seller, that must be the seller's kid by now.
Would you think it's a fair offer to say to match your 17 days or your days that you can present this offer or this notice or at the same time that they're supposed to be releasing their contingencies?
Sure, they match them
So
up.
ultimately, they release their contingencies, you're telling them, I'm not gonna cancel you. We're both in agreement that during that term.
But there's only one way you can notice them, right? There's something that has to happen first. Why are you noticing this guy to get out of here?
If you had a backup offer.
You got a better, you have to accept the back. We used to run into that all the time. They were trying to throw the buyer out because they were hopeful. And it's like, Not there, you can't. There you have to have an accepted backup offer. You gotta be ready to go to escrow with buyer number 2 before you can say anything to this guy. If you don't get a backup offer during the term of the agreement, whether that box is checked, you can't notice them, because you can't notice them until you get a backup offer. And then you gotta know how many days after you open their escrow, you gotta wait. So that's not confusing at all.
The last box up there, 8B, the last box there, the term of the agreement, that's a good example of how agents might miss something and become hard to your clients.
Yeah.
And it's so important just to remember those contracts and what you do.
It's true, it's true. How much time have we got? Looks like we just did next week's entire class.
Well, this is a very important form.
Yes.
Oh my God, yeah, and it's, I've done hours on this.
Can you show on the RPA where you would check to bring this form into play?
Actually, yes. I mean, there's two things. One is, come on, little bit. There you go.
When you're making an offer for your buyer.
It says it, now I can't remember where it says it. It's paragraph 4B. It actually mentions it in this form somewhere. I just don't remember where. So let's get the RP. We'll go to our forms, I'm in the right library, yes. I don't know why I don't just change that, because I always do it by acronym. Thank you, Nancy. Linda's buying your lunch today.
But I was taking her out.
Stay with me now.
Yeah.
Be right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. This agreement and buyer's ability to obtain financing are contingent upon the sale of property owned by buyer specified in the attached end of CR form COP. It says this, their ability to close this escrow and obtain financing. They tied it to the financing contingency in the contract, which is why when you waive it, you have to waive the financing. Seems like you don't need it now, do you? No, apparently not. They still might fit. They might be going, okay, they might do a huddle of their own and go, okay, you think we can pull this off? Keep going.
But
And break, and we're good.
look through like other terms. I've seen agents put it in other spots
Yes.
that says form COP to be
Other.
included in contract.
Yeah,
And they
I
don't
guess
check that.
Why did
redundancy is our friend, but it's like, where'd you learn this stuff? What's the matter with people? The answer is nowhere. Let's see. There's something, so let's just talk about, while I keep you 2 more minutes over. Didn't I put that in? I get a lot of questions on, and I always have, on the addendum and the modification of terms. So when you're going to amend or addend a contract, here's your form. Now I don't care what it is, amend or addend a TDS or an AOAA or RPA or who knows what. Maybe your notice to perform doesn't even have enough room on it to say what you really feel like you should tell them. And the challenging part of this form is which addendum is this? You can have 15 addendum number 1s, right? We have addendum number 1 of the RPA, addendum number 1 of the CR, addendum number 1 of the TDS. It's because it's what did you tie it to? That's lenders were just talking about that Friday going, please stop sending me addendum 5 to the TDS. Where are the other 4? Well, it was like the 5th time I used this form. Hey, you're not getting that, right? Because it's even got the TDS listed in here.
Yeah.
About them apples. You guys doing a good job of the C here. And it says right there, an amendment to TDS may give the buyer a right to rescind, just so you know. That's helpful. So amend or addend a contract or any other form. A contract or any other form. You can amend or addend. You can change it or add to it with this form. There are changes to the listing agreement that have their own form. And the only time you use this is modification of terms, addendum to authorization or right to sell, acquire, or rent, or other agreement between principal and broker. When you have an agreement between the principal and the broker, like which is a listing contract, is an agreement between the principal and the broker, the seller and the broker. You make changes here. Now, there aren't very many you can do, like there's one box for other. You might have to amend this. You don't have enough room, or addend it. Like you could add an addendum to the modification of terms. So when people say, hey, well, how do I change my listing? Right here. And there's plenty of stuff on here. Changes your expiration date, changes your list price. I forgot what else.
We just had one that Gary helped me with, that we actually had to do the modification of terms for our listing agreement, because it was one where it was held in 2 trusts.
Yeah.
And one principal from one trust exercised an option and purchased out people of the other trust. So now we have a single person and a trust. And we had to change it. Gary was helping me with it, how we changed that, because it actually changed our listing agreement.
The name on the listing agreement.
Yeah, so you got a contract between the principal and the broker. Who's the principal? Like, not that guy, doesn't even own the house anymore. Okay, and he can list whatever he owns of you. If he owns 0% of that house, that's what you have listed. You have like half the house listed, so.
If you guys go into the MLS and change your expiration date, you better have a modification terms to match that new expiration date. That is the quickest and easiest thing that agents do to, oh, my listing's getting close to expire, I'll just push it out a month and then I'll talk to my seller. You're gonna get fined. The moment.
God, I hope so.
Jeez. That is the most common mistake agents do is, oh, I forgot to have my modification, I'm gonna push this out a couple of days. And they do it backwards and then they forget to get the modification, someone calls them out, now you're getting pulled in.
And that's the same agent that'll cancel the listing just to restart the clock.
Yeah.
And they're out there. And they don't work here, right? If you did that, you're fired. Get it.
Price changes, your expiration dates, those are kind of the two, that the most common ones. Occasionally your commission agreements, you might see a buyer agent commission agreement change on the MLS. All of those are red flags for a modification of terms for that file. And it has to be put in prior to making the change on the MLS.
I'm just not gonna tell this owner that I'm gonna work longer for that.
Yeah, right? Because they're not gonna know. They're not gonna know. Why aren't they gonna know? Because it's not gonna expire in the MLS. They're not gonna get 139 phone calls next day going, hey, did you know your house was off the market? What?
But think about that, if you don't have that modification signed, are they obligated to pay a commission?
Anybody?
They are not.
They're obligated to take you to court and sue your pants off.
That's right. So not
That's
only
fraud,
do you not
baby.
get your commission, you're probably gonna get.
You know what I
sued.
used to have your house listing? I was kind of figuring, I still do. Like, I was kind of figuring you're
I
not.
used
You
to
know,
remember,
we
that
didn't
when
extend
people
that
remind
for.
you to do those.
That's why SkySlope's so important, because you actually get notified prior to your expiration that your file is about to expire. So if you're not putting good data into SkySlope, it can't work for you to let you know that you're about to expire. That's why when you're filling out the contract or that cover page, you're taking everything off the listing agreement contract and you're putting it in SkySlope exactly the way your contract reads. It's not to, yeah, and then when you get notified, you're going, oh, that means I gotta get my modification, I gotta change it in SkySlope, and I gotta change it in the MLS so everything matches.
Good ticker system.
This is a hard job, huh?
Well, actually now
I didn't
Matrix
quit.
reminds us too, so we have
Matrix.
reminders.
Yeah.
If you don't change your close date in Matrix, it will automatically close the file.
They'll
for
just
you.
close it, they'll pick a number, they'll close
get
it
a
at
little
full
red
price. All of a sudden, your
flag.
stats are awesome, you sell for 100% of list all the time.
But you can't go in and reactivate it. You have to call Matrix, which now they're checkboxing, going, how many times does this agent call on a closed file? When do I start finding
Where
this
does this
person?
work? Who is your boss? Who's that idiot that comes in there on Wednesday and has you doing this crap? Yeah, okay, keep us up there. Last form I want to go over, and I promise it's the last form because it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. No, it's extension of time, because I mentioned it. There's an extension of time addendum, and that's how we extend everything except what?
The contingency.
What we were just talking about.
COP.
Oh, extension of
Listing
listing.
Listing agreement, yeah, listing agreement's got its own extensive time addendum. So use the right form, and partly because CAR put titles on top of all of them. And you'll see here, right, that in the recital, following terms and conditions hereby incorporated into, made a part of the, and there's a whole bunch of forms, there's no listing agreements there. All the purchase agreements are there and no listing agreements. And this is for extension of escrow, extension of contingencies, other extensions, additional terms. So if you're bumping up to some time frame somewhere, your 17-day inspection period is ending, you know you're 2 weeks out. Instead of hiding for 2 weeks, I mean, maybe just tell everybody what's up, have a little dialogue and say, so we're going to extend that time, yeah? That way your buyer has a new set of rights, your seller has a new set of rights or responsibilities, and you can keep going with an intact, workable contract with a whole bunch of new deadlines. Now, the caution though, right, is when you turn in one of these extensions of time to somebody, all they got to do is say no, and then when the original deadline hits, you're out. That's why sometimes people will kind of sit on this, do anything like.
So a notice doesn't have to come out? Is that what you meant by that?
You still have to notice, you got to know, yeah, the notice is, yeah, might as well just figure, like Dave was saying earlier, use notice all the time. I don't think you're going to hurt that COP by using a notice. Why not? And I got a buck that says they changed that for me either this fall or next summer, and just get rid of that bottom part because we already made the appropriate change to the CR. Any questions on the extension of time addendum?
I love that form. It means that you guys are in good communication with agents. No hostility at all, because everybody's on the same page.
Need another week? Well, tell me about that. Why do you need another week? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, you know what? That makes total sense. Let me go ask my guy, see what they want to do. Calm the guy down. And the guy says, no, that makes sense. All right, okay. Fine, all right, but no more. You always got to win at the end.
You should always have that communication.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's what you do. You're a communicator and a
Don't
negotiator.
hide in the huddle huddle.
That's right. Well, go to the Hubbell Huddle and then tell them what you want to tell them. Frame it, you know. So I wanted to talk to you.
I think it's so interesting how few times I've received this form, but I receive an addendum.
Yeah.
Time extension on an addendum, and I go, why don't you use this?
There's a form for that.
And to fill in the blanks, you don't have to like come up with the
You don't
verbiage.
have to create the language, which then you're an attorney,
But I
and guess
can
what?
tell
You're
You'll
not.
be shocked at how many times you're gonna get it on an addendum.
Do we have forms to help you do? You see the size of that freaking book? What is that?
It could be
LA
so easy to
phone
fill in
book?
blanks.
That's probably the Arroyo Grande phone book now.
I get that.
Yeah. And if you get the addendum, the question is, do we sign the addendum or do we respond with the correct form and push them to sign with the correct form?
If the addendum's written correctly,
If
and
it's
it's all okay.
Choose your
then sign
battle.
Yeah.
it. Choose
Choose
your
your
battle.
battle.
If they've been working with you and you have a good relationship, I would just sign it.
Yeah, you guys leave the contract trainer, the idiots that want to go do it, like, why waste your time?
As long as
Train-
your seller
because
or
you will
buyer is
train
in
the
agreement
world
with
if
it,
you
you
start.
just have them sign it.
So read.
If it's
their
right,
language
right? So
very
that's,
carefully.
yeah, that's the next one.
Make sure-
If it's written right, okay, let's see, is everything here that my seller needs here? And are we really clear on what we're doing? How's the spelling? I mean, let's just have a look at this form.
Yeah, normally if someone
This
tells me
down
they're
here-
gonna
down
ask
here
for
by
an
correct your
extension,
misspelled
I say be
words.
sure and complete an extension of time addendum back in the email.
Yeah.
So
And they'll
I'm trying-
send you an AD anyway, so, okay, I
At
just
least
wrote
I'm
one.
trying.
Like, you're almost done, hang on, probably. How you doing?
Good.
Nice to see you. Okay, any questions on anything we went over today? I'll go over the other 57 forms apparently next week. And we'll buzz through them. Sure we will. Okay, all set? All right, good deal. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being the best agents in the marketplace. Someday I may say that to people. I don't mean it to you. Good out.
Alright, so we're gonna go to stop share.
Oh, it's big red. Come on now. Stop sharing.
And then in meeting.
And meeting. Cool. Bye, everybody. The meeting's rolling.